It's the internet. You're busy. Let's do this for January 19th, 2024. For the next hour or so, let me help you sort through the world of gaming on Game Mess Mornings Live with me, Jeff Grubb. Today, Xbox's Developer Direct sets up the company's 2024. And is it time for Elden Ring DLC? But first, please join me in welcoming today's co-host to Game Mess Mornings. It's Tamoor Hussein, everybody. Tam, how are you doing on this Dregs Day?
You said the magic words, so I'm here. You know the magic words, Jeff.
Dregs Day?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm talking about. What are you talking about?
Oh, well, listen, I don't know. I got lots of magic words over here, all right? Listen, I'm studying under the masters like Randy Pitchford. That's who I got.
I can't for the life of me figure out why you would fuck me on this. That's the greatest. That is the greatest Randy Pitchford quote.
I think about it all the time. All the time. And it's like one of those things where it's like I can I'm glad you can like drop the reference here and we're working out, it works out well. I want to reference it all the time, and I'm like, most people in my life are not going to understand what I'm talking about here.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's very important to me. That is a precious quote to me. Yes, I don't know. How are you doing? This is we're like more than halfway through January.
We're halfway
already.
through 2024. Let's go.
Halfway through 2024. Do you feel like you got the hang of 2024? I think I'm getting there. I'm not quite there yet, though. How about you?
Oh no. I am still crawling my way up out of 2023.
Yeah.
I'm slowly getting there. Like 2023 was a quagmire, a pool of quicksand that I'm just now figuring out how to get out of. So, but it'll be good. It will be fine. It will be okay.
We are figuring it out slowly but surely. We're figuring it out.
Yeah, there's some exciting things have happened. We announced that we're going to PAX.
Yeah, I'm very excited.
It's going to be great. Yeah, I've never been, so this is going to be. We went to the last PAX.
PAX West, yes.
PAX West. Now I'm going to PAX East for the first time. Is PAX East the good one?
Well, PAX West
not the good one. PAX West was awesome as well. But I mean, like, is the PAX East the one that everyone is like?
So yeah. I think the way it went down is PAX West was PAX Prime for a really long time. That was like the originator. Then they started up PAX East a long time ago, and it was basically equivalent to PAX West in about every way.
Gotcha.
And now they're both equal and huge and big. And there was still like a little bit of I go to PAX Prime these days. They are equal.
I had a lot of fun at PAX West. It was like really cool, and I am so excited to go to PAX East now. Yeah,
it's great. It's great to just see the East Coast games people out there that don't tend to go out to PAX West. That's always fun, and it's a different time of the year.
Who is your favorite East Coast games person?
Let's see here. Alex Navarro.
Hell yeah!
There we go.
That's the right answer.
There he is.
That was the right answer.
All right, let's explain what we do here. Most weekdays, I, Jeff Grubb, will help piece your gaming life back together. That includes breaking news and maybe even some of our own original reporting. For all these topics, I'll get the input of a bona fide expert who will make me look smart. If you are watching live on Twitch, welcome. You can always listen to the show later on podcast feeds by searching for Game Mess Mornings.
Hello, YouTube.
Or find the RSS on giantbomb.com. See, he's still getting the hang of the year, everybody. You can also catch the show later with chapters and timestamps on YouTube. Hello, YouTube. There it is.
Shit. Up again.
No, that was on our side. It sounded perfect. We're good. Yeah, I definitely said Alex Navarro. One, because it's true, and two, because he controls the reins on Blight Club and at any time can step in and fuck us. So and I can't believe he would fuck
Vinny would never. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
that's
same
exactly right. All right, let's hop into this news, starting with everything we saw at Xbox's January Developer Direct. This comes from Kenneth Shepard at Kotaku. Xbox just held its January Developer Direct, which showcased a handful of upcoming first-party games. If you missed the 50-minute stream and want to watch the whole thing, you can do so, but here's a way to catch up as well. Starting with Obsidian Entertainment's fantasy RPG Avowed, which is set in the same universe as the team's Pillars of Eternity series. The game is launching on Game Pass in the fall of this year. They showed off some gameplay. They showed off some more action. They also finally, I think, showed off for the first time, really, the kind of RPG, talk to enemies, talk to NPCs sort of nature of the game. Things that people were expecting from an Obsidian RPG. Well, now they confirmed, it's going to be one of those, of course. How are you feeling about Avowed now, Tam? I'm a little bit hotter on this preview than I was on the one at Summer Game Fest last year. How about you?
If I'm being completely honest, I am kind of ambivalent about it right
Yeah,
now.
I don't think you're alone. I think a lot of
Based
people are
on
feeling
what
that way.
I've seen, based on my excitement, I'm excited for Avowed, but my excitement for it comes entirely from the fact that it's Obsidian.
Sure.
And Obsidian make games that I really enjoy, and they make like on different scales, whether that's, you know, like Fallout or Pillars or whatever it may be, but like, or yeah, Pentiment, or also like Outer Worlds,
yep.
Outer Worlds, yeah. So like that is, and it seems like format and like kind of construction wise, structure wise, it looks like they're going something like that, where it's like a bunch of areas that are like linked together. The thing about it is like, from the combat side of it, I have this like thing now where a lot of these dev diaries, or when these happen, not specifically the Microsoft ones, I've seen them happening all over the place.
Yes, they're all over the place.
Present things as if they're brand new, when it's just like, okay, man, like that sounds fairly plain and normal. Like, not saying it's bad, but they'll like, you can wield things, different hands, 2 spells, or like a sword and a sword. I was like,
I expected to do that. Yeah.
Yep, that's what games have been doing for a really long time.
I definitely
and they're
get
like,
that.
and the combat is like strategic and tactical. I'm like, yep, that's what how video games are for sure. And not saying, again, I'm not saying it's bad, but it's like presenting things as if it's like wildly brand new and innovative. I was like, okay, this looks like a functional, maybe satisfying kind of combat system. And then I thought it looked pretty good. Like, it looked interesting. We talked about this on GameSpot After Dark. I have not an issue, but I really do wish that in situations like this where RPGs, you're showing off an RPG, and you're talking about the narrative, that people don't try and show off what like the narrative is like through being like, here's a very, very fast, reductive explanation of a quest line, and be like, and at this point, you make decisions. I feel like we've reached a stage now where it's pretty clear that the way you do it is by focusing on specific characters for people to go wild about.
Definitely.
And I talked about this on After Dark, and I was like, let's take it within the context of Baldur's Gate. Baldur's Gate has a lot of really cool narrative and plot threads. Trying to explain that in something like a, you know, direct of this style, I think Larian had longer stuff where they would like really break things down. It was good.
Sure.
Trying to explain that in the context of like what Xbox was doing, extremely difficult. However, you can put a character like Astarion on show, or like Karlach on show, and say like, this is one of our characters. Look at Karlach, she's awesome and hot, and you'll want to bone her. Or like, you know, Astarion, he's a bit of a menace, but he's also kind of sexy. I feel like that's how
here's a bear, you
like,
can fuck it.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like that's how you get people like talking and excited about the potential there. I trust that Obsidian will do good narrative, good story, and good characters. I did not get a good sense of that through what they showed. What they effectively showed me was they are making a game. It's an RPG. It's got combat, and it will have a story, and you'll make decisions. That's all I took away from it. And the vast majority of my excitement, which again, to be clear, there is a lot of excitement, comes from the fact that I know what they can do and what they have done, and their consistency with it.
I think, the way you put that there, I fully agree. That the specifics of the content of that video, the things that like spiked my interest the most of what they showed was definitely like design. I think the looks of like the lizard characters that look like they have their own culture and stuff like that. And you know, you're fighting them mostly, but they
lizard culture. That's called being British, mate. Did you hear about the Queen?
Oh, the lizard people, of course. Yes.
Yeah.
It was. I'd like. Okay, this looks cool. This is like striking my fancy. It is. They are building up something where like they know what looks cool, and they know what's going to make someone go, I wonder what's up with these people. And then, you know, you're right. They would try to go a little bit deeper on some of the quests, and it's hard to like keep track of what they're saying and whether or not it's going to be interesting. You kind of need to feel ownership of a quest before you actually begin to understand whether or not you care about it or not. And it's just really tough to get that across on the video. So yeah, you're right. That's exactly how I felt when they were like, and here is an NPC talking to you and you're making a decision. I'm like, okay, you make decisions. It's one of those games, and that's all I could take away from that. So. All that said, I still feel more positive about the game now than I did after the last preview, the last like sort of a showcase for this game. And we're going to be playing it later this year. I hope we get like another update maybe later, and it's like, okay, now we really understand how to show off this game now that we're in a stronger position with it, and we really do know when it's coming out.
And it's on Game Pass for that ass.
You're
that's
good.
what I'm
Good
saying,
point.
So it was good. I again, like, Outer Worlds was massively underrated, I think. And I'm excited for a new RPG from Obsidian.
Same. Yeah, right. I mean, just even if it's, and I'm like excited for a Skyrim adjacent sort of idea of a fantasy RPG where you're walking around a world and doing stuff. Now, it's not going to be, the scale of Skyrim is just not going to be there. Going to be closer to Outer Worlds. But you know what? Outer Worlds did kind of, it worked. It was enough for me. So I'm hoping for the same here.
Speaking of Outer Worlds, man,
yeah,
how good is Outer Wilds still? Holy shit, man!
There was a company reaching out about like an outdoor television, and I'm like, what would I do with that? I'm like, no thanks. And then
what does that mean? Outdoor television?
A TV that can like survive being in the elements or whatever, so you could just leave it outside.
The Bear Grylls of TVs.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah, it's gonna drink its own piss. Exactly. You could like hang it. You could mount it on like in like your. I don't know if you have like an outdoor patio or something like that, and just leave it. It would be fine. And I'm like, I'm not going to do that. That's crazy. And then I'm like, well, it'd be really fun to play Outer Wilds outside in like this like
that
summer.
Fun,
have your own like late night summer camp, playing through Outer Wilds again, and having that like future banjo music playing. I want to play that game real bad again.
Yeah, I think I'm going to replay it soon. I'm on Best Buy, and I did not know that outdoor TVs was just a genre of thing that you could buy.
Oh, Tam, you have so much to learn about white suburban people.
I was gonna say
you have so much to learn.
There's wouldn't you just get a projector?
There are many reasons, mostly because we don't. There's no good reason. No.
Yeah. I really want to replay Outer Wilds.
It means it's one of those things where I'm like very grateful to have a shit memory, because I'm like, I bet I could get a lot out of that game again and won't remember most of it.
So there, I have got it bookmarked, but I believe there's a VR mod for it.
That'd be cool. I wonder if they have a randomizer for Outer Wilds.
Can you randomize that? I feel like you need to.
I'm always surprised about what people are able to randomize. You're right. That one seems like it'd be especially difficult to do that, but I wonder. Yeah. All right. Sticking with the Xbox Developer Direct, up next was Ninja Theory, who showed off Senua's Saga Hellblade 2. The game got confirmed for May 21st. They showed off some more gameplay, more combat. It definitely looks like Hellblade, but bigger. They did confirm afterwards, Tam, not that much bigger. 8 hours. It's going to be a $50 game. It is like Hellblade 1, but like seems like a slightly bigger budget, maybe a significantly bigger budget, but they're not trying to say this is going to be like a God of War. This is like, no, this is another Hellblade. And I'm pretty fascinated that they did that, but it's like, I guess it makes a ton of sense. They never ever said or suggested they were going to like try to turn this into something else. They always just said they were making Hellblade 2, so I should have not been surprised by this.
This is a assumption that a lot of people have made based on the business and studio changes of that studio, Ninja Theory. It's because Microsoft acquired them.
Yep.
They got a brand new studio, and they added people to the team, and people naturally just assumed bigger, badder, and more expensive.
That's exactly what I did.
And like I've seen a lot of people doing the same. And like I'm glad that they finally confirmed, like, hey, we're not going wild. But at the same time, I don't expect them to be like, oh yeah, this is an 8-hour game. It's pretty much exactly how you remember. I think like they're going for like, this is one of those 8-hour games that is going to be crazy detailed.
Oh, yes.
And like really, really like the production values of it are going to be super high. And we did spend a lot of money on it, but we spent that money like on an experience that's deep instead of like, broad.
Exactly. Deep instead of broad is exactly what I was thinking. They aren't going to add 15 other systems just to flesh out a game to make it feel like, well, this is why it's worth $70. It's like, no, they're going to make the game they were making, but deeper and more detailed. I think that's an excellent way of putting it. I think like people will be really happy about that, and some people would be like, why doesn't this compete and look exactly like a prestige first-party Sony PlayStation game? Again, they never said they were going to make anything like that. They were just saying they're making more Hellblade. So I think fans of that will be happy. I was never too into Hellblade. I have nothing against it. It's just not for me. I do think that this game looks stunning. It really does look really, really good in motion. The visuals are very high fidelity. And that's the part of me that's like, I want to like check it out a little bit. And I'll mostly though, I bet I'm going to bounce off, and I'll be happy to hear other people who got a lot out of it. Are you a Hellblade person, Tam?
I'm a big time Hellblade enjoyer.
Excellent.
And I'm like I'm a known Ninja Theory liker. So much so that the other day I tweeted that DMC Devil May Cry was my favorite Devil May Cry, and it had a good story, an interesting story, and did a lot of cool things. And let me tell you, I still received death threats about that. People were very upset, and I was like,
DMC fans are weird.
It's been years. Grow up.
Man,
Jesus, man.
I do like that DMC game a lot.
It's really good. And I say that as a long-time fanatical Devil May Cry fan. I remember playing the first one, and it was one of my most treasured gaming experiences. I feel like it's time for people to recognize that Dante was cool, and then he became the corniest motherfucker in this industry.
He is definitely
I understand that's part of the charm and it's part of the point, but man, as I grew up, I was like, this motherfucker is embarrassing. Please stop.
Yeah, he's definitely in part of the lineage, the Spawn lineage, right? There was the cool Spawn Deadpool characters in the 90s, and then quickly we're like, okay.
And I love him for that.
And he pulls it off.
And I especially when they introduced Nero and had him being annoying a little bit, and you're like, oh, Dante, I love you, man. But I also really loved what they did with that other version of Dante, where it was the spirit of rebellion and that punk rock, and people just could not see past the fact that it wasn't original Dante made by Japanese people.
Yep.
And I was like, hey, actually, man, it's pretty cool.
I'm very glad to hear you say that, Tam, because I'm like, I really like that DMC game. Do I just have bad taste?
The special edition also on PC, I believe, I think people have updated it to be the best version of that game. So it rocks, man. Music in that game rules.
I'm getting the craving to go back to that as well. Square Enix made a surprise appearance to show off Visions of Mana, the latest entry in the long-running fantasy RPG series Mana. You say Mana or Mana?
Mana.
Mana's right. The game was initially announced at the 2023 Game Awards and looks like a return to form for the Mana series after spinoffs and dead mobile games. Square's presentation included looks at the open world, cute critters, and the series' return to action RPG combat. Visions of Mana will launch on PC, PlayStation 4, PS5, Xbox Series X and S in summer 2024. This one was a little bit of a surprise that it showed up there, but I don't think it looked so out of place. It broke up the sort of pacing. It was a nice breath of fresh air after Hellblade, so, a little bit of oppressiveness. I thought it looked very cute and cool. I thought the action combat actually looked really fun as well. I'm not a huge Mana person, but this looks neat.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not I played Secrets and that kind of stuff. But,
sure.
I'm not a huge Mana person. I think it's really interesting to contrast that with the statements from Square Enix that we'll get to later on. Where
yes, we will.
We need to make less RPGs. They're anyway, there's an RPG. Kind of funny, but I know this is a series that a lot of people hold a lot of love for, and Square Enix has recently been quite good about bringing these franchises back and doing good with them. So I am interested to see what they do with this. It looked very actiony. I don't remember Mana being like that, but it had air juggles and stuff, and I was like, what's going on here? But I mean, it's got some of that spirit of the original in there a lot, and it's got the charm of it, and I like the way it looked. Definitely,
me too. Yes.
I saw that and I was like, man, I want to go and go back to playing Tales. I forgot Tales of Arise. I never finished that, and I was like, damn, that game is good. Yeah,
I even started that game and enjoyed some of it, and I'm not a huge RPG guy. Visions of Mana looks pretty cool. Again, summer 2024, but it's out on everything. I think they didn't even like announce this for Game Pass. It was just, hey, no, we got friends over at Square Enix. We'll show off their game. Felt like them.
This was your annual reminder that Xbox exists in Japan.
Yeah, your annual reminder that Phil Spencer occasionally takes a plane flight to Japan and talks to people. That's what this is. Yeah.
I respect them for it. I'm glad that you're still doing it.
Yeah,
I'm
absolutely.
Glad you're doing it. All I'm saying is it would be much easier if you just commissioned a Lost Odyssey remake.
Yeah, exactly. That's the easiest answer right here. Oxide Games showed off our History Untold next. The studio calls it a living world in a strategy game with their decisions as leaders influencing the world. This one is due out this fall as well. It is former Civilization people. It's a grand strategy 4X game. I'm a 4X person. I dabbled in some grand strategy stuff. I don't necessarily know what separates one from the other than like making massive decisions that affect your world. Maybe that's exactly what it is. But I'll say that this one fascinated me because it seemed like they were simulating a lot of stuff in the world. And I like this idea of a feedback loop of your decisions affecting the world and then the world changing, affecting like what you can do and kind of that continuing throughout the entire lineage of playing through one of these 4X games. That could be really neat. I have tried to find games that aren't Civ, that are similar to Civ, that like kind of fill that gap. None of them have quite hit for me the way Civ 5 did. Maybe this will be the one. Maybe it won't be. I think Civ 7's not too far off, so we'll see. But I'm at least going to check this out. I think it looked pretty interesting. You have any interest in 4X games, Tam?
I had my time with Civ.
Right.
I think I've played pretty much all the Civ games. I think Civ 5 or 4 were the one I played the most of those Civ games. But the one I played in that franchise overall the most was Civ Rev. I think I'm past my time on 4X games in a lot of ways. I feel like it requires a level of attention that I'm unable to give them anymore.
Yeah, man,
and
that's
like
part of me as well. Yeah.
Yeah, they don't. They also like aren't doing things where they can evoke and kind of capture that attention for long periods of time.
Right.
Basically, the colors and the flashing lights aren't enough for me.
Yeah.
Like these days, I need like more from it.
When I was a young man, the promise of colonialism was all I needed.
Yeah.
Just let me just conquer a world and I'll feel good.
Yeah.
Now these days, I'm like, I do need a little bit more.
Yeah.
Maybe that grand strategy stuff will be more here. I don't know.
Yeah, for me, it was like the promise of revenge against colonialists.
Of course, of course.
And these days, I just do that outside of video.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't ask me how. I won't tell you.
Listen,
I've never done anything.
Never committed a crime.
But, however, speaking of Oxide Games,
yes,
are you familiar with the musical work of English DJ and MC, garage MC Oxide and Neutrino?
Can't say that I am.
Okay, well, I recommend you and everyone watching go to Spotify.
Say it one more time.
Oxide and Neutrino.
Oxide and Neutrino?
Neutrino, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so they have some absolute bangers that you will probably not understand a word of.
Okay, fantastic.
Everyone.
I want to understand a word of it because it's not English or it's...
because it's extremely English.
I was wondering if it was the other side of the spectrum. It's too English to understand. Fuck yeah, I love that. Okay, yeah, I'll lie down. I will try not to hurt myself while listening to it.
There was an area of emceeing in the garage days. So garage music is a kind of like I think it's very British, like originated, but it's like a precursor to grime music and almost like it's like imagine hip hop but with more of a dance approach to it, high BPM. And there was a period of time where emceeing or rapping over garage was effectively British version of scatting.
Oh wow!
And,
okay.
So it was like a bizarre period of time in British music.
If I listen to this and I close my eyes, will I have flashbacks to Wipeout XL, or is that a different kind of?
You may.
Okay.
I mean, like it's not as like electronic.
All right.
But it is very good.
Okay.
It is very, very good. I wonder if we can play some in the post show.
Yeah. If you give me a link that you think will be safe, then we'll go for it. All right, then closing out the show was the headliner, Machine Games' Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. Bethesda big boss Todd Howard talks about how he's had an Indiana Jones game in his head for a long time, down to the period of the adventurer's life he wanted to write around between Raiders of the Lost Ark and The Last Crusade. And he believes Machine Games was the right studio in Bethesda stables to make it work. The game is due out in 2024. They're not getting more specific than that. I think probably what happens here, Tam, and just to kind of get the schedule out of the way real quick. They said, let's see, which one was coming? Hellblade 2 is in May, and then they're going to have Aura in the fall. I think they'll probably have like some of these other games come out, like Avowed, I think is also the fall. Those games will probably be early fall, like September, October, and then Indiana Jones is November, right? That's the thing that makes them, if it can come out this year.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense.
The game looks pretty good. It is first person, and everyone freaked out about that.
What is going on with that name?
Okay,
what's happening with that name?
The name is bizarre. How do you like the Great Circle? Okay,
it's like they use all their creative energy, and then they went into a meeting about the name, and they're just like, big circle.
I think legitimately, I think like George Lucas was like really good at coming up with like really cheesy, hokey names that worked. And I think it's an art form that most other people have never even thought about. Like, we're like, okay, we need a Pulp Fiction-y name. And it's like, the Great Circle. And it just comes out sounding real bad. You got to just dress it up a little bit.
Make it the circle of something.
Yeah.
Indiana Jones and the Circle of Rebirth. I did it.
Yeah, there it is.
There you go.
And it's like, there have been like good video games. Emperor's Tomb's not great, but Indiana Jones and the Infernal Machine, that's good. That's
good.
Strong.
Yeah, great. Raiders of the Lost Ark.
And the Fate of Atlantis. Like, that's good.
Temple of Doom. Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
Yeah, these are ones that actually work.
Very, very easy to do.
I don't know why it's the Great Circle.
Maybe it's a case of like the Great Circle. Maybe it's a case of like when we play the game and see the story, we will regret our words and deeds and all that kind of shit. But I don't know, man. It's not a very strong, like, I feel like you could have done literally anything. Like,
It reminds me of there's a movie called Miami Connection. It's a famously bad movie, and there's a scene where they're in a computer programming class, and the teacher has like one line where he just walks up to the star and says, "Good circle," because she's programming a circle or something. It's like, good circle.
Indiana Jones and the Return of Troy Baker.
There he is. Yeah. Hey, finally, Troy Baker getting work. Hey, listen, he did a real good job. He sounds a lot like Harrison Ford.
You know what? A lot of people are like, "Oh God, it's Troy Baker." I'm just gonna say it. He's good at doing.
Yeah, turns out he's better than most people have tried Harrison Ford before.
Let that man live.
Yeah,
like he's like, I'm good at a thing, and everyone's mad at me.
I'm not gonna stand in his way. Yeah, it's like, oh my God, Troy Baker again.
If you were good at voices and doing voiceover, and you kept getting work, and everyone was like, "Can we stop giving that person work?" You'd be so pissed off.
Yeah, it would hurt your feelings. I don't want to hurt Troy Baker's feelings.
Leave Troy Baker alone. That's all I'm saying.
He did a real good job. They also got Harrison Ford's likeness, so that's kind of surprising, but also not too surprising. It's Microsoft money. They should be able to make that happen if it was possible. Turns out it was possible. So they got young Harrison Ford's likeness. Troy Baker doing a really decent Harrison Ford, more than decent. It's a good Harrison Ford, and I'm all on board. I think this looks great. I'm someone who does like Indiana Jones. I think that the Machine Games first-person action combat with that, where like you got the whip and you're whipping people, Nazis' feet, and you're tripping them, and then you're shooting them. That stuff, and then you're getting them in their face and punch them a bunch. All that stuff looked really good. And then if we base it on what we understand from Wolfenstein and then what we saw in this trailer, they're going to give you plenty of opportunities to see like Indiana Jones emoting. They're going to get up in his face with camera shots in the cutscenes, and I bet it's going to be very moving and well done because Machine Games were very good at that stuff.
They're very good at that. They also I think they're some of the best. I think they might be the best in the business at creating villains.
Yeah,
like villains.
Really good point.
They are. No one does villains like them. Like, and it's not even just like it's Hitler, because the Hitler we got was pissing, shitting, and farting constantly.
Yes,
like,
God,
remember?
what a great game.
It was the others of the villains that were like, oh man, this person sucks, and I really want to shoot him in the face or drown him. So like, I am very excited for a very, very like charismatic and compelling villain in this game. There's a extremely, extremely good and extremely high chance that this game will be the best Indiana Jones thing since the original movies. Like, super high chance.
It could have a more positive impact on the relevancy of Indiana Jones than anything, including the movie, except for Indiana Jones being in Fortnite. Other than that, it'll be the most impactful thing. And I think I think it's likely at this point.
I like everything that they're saying, everything that they're doing. I like how the whole people are pointing out like it looks vaguely immersive simi.
Yeah,
I like that they're like, hey, you can use this whip for a bunch of things.
Yeah, I think it's a good fit for this series. There's a lot of authored puzzles and stuff, but I think giving you the chance to express yourself as Indiana Jones with that whip in a bunch of different ways, that's a smart move.
How do you feel about first person?
I'm a fan of first person. I always thought this game would be third person though, even though it's Machine Games and clearly they should stick with what they're comfortable with. It's like I do think they're going to try to make it Uncharted. I do think they're going to try to copy that formula, and maybe they should. I think that's what most people want. Seeing it in action as a first-person game, I got very excited because I'm like, this is my shit. I really do like this. And then I was aware of there's a lot of people, especially people who have primarily played on console. I think I just saw a poll that someone did a couple weeks ago where it's like, do you prefer playing first person or third person, and do you play on console or PC? And it was pretty split on PC. People are like, I don't really have that much of a preference. I'll play whatever. And on console, it's like by far third person. And I think that's just the distance you sit from the TV and stuff like that does play a factor. People definitely have a preference. I don't blame anyone for that. I just let's give this game a chance because I bet it's going to win most people over.
I think I'm not saying this is why people are upset, but I think for me, one of the things I was like, that's interesting, is it does change the kind of perception of that game. And it also, from a marketing perspective, I feel like it's more advantageous to be in third person purely because in third person, you are looking at an iconic character model of Indiana Jones.
And he's very iconic.
Extreme. Like the silhouette is enough of that game. In first person, you don't have the advantage of putting that out there, and it's not as much of a draw. Like I think if you took the average Joe Schmo and they were like, do you want to play this game or this game? And they were both the same Indiana Jones games, and one was in first person, one was in third person, where you could see Indy, they would be like, I want to play that.
I want to play the one.
Indiana Jones.
I agree.
Yeah, I think that's a big deal in terms of I want to be able to see the legendary cultural appropriate hero that everyone loves.
Number one in cultural appropriation. Eight decades running.
Him and Nate Drake.
Yeah.
I think that's a big part of it. I think it's one of those back of the mind things that people probably don't really factor in for a lot of times.
Right.
But when I saw them doing it, I was like, oh, it's got to be third person because they want people to be able to see the character they are.
It's an easier thing to market if it's third person. Yes.
Yeah, you can think of it as in the same way that Tomb Raider in first person will be weird because then you're like,
right,
why would you not have Lara Croft on screen? That's crazy. Right.
You spend all this time building up an affinity for these characters.
Yeah.
You want to emphasize that and exploit it, because that's the whole idea is you put all this investment into making people love Indiana Jones or Lara Croft or Nate Drake. And you're not going to want to squander that. And I think with this game, doesn't feel like they're necessarily squandering it. I'm just a little surprised that it's first person. Then I think about it, it's like obviously they're good at it. And then they showed it that there was third person segments. You're going to be able to see the character in some gameplay stuff when you're climbing ropes. I bet they have really thought about the ways to make that have the biggest impact and feel like, okay, and this is stuff we can use in marketing and it's going to look good and we're still going to make it fun. Let's really think about it. And then let's think about the first person segments and try to make them feel as Indiana Jones as possible. I think there's people pointing out how the shadow, the silhouette of Indy pops up a lot and you can kind of see yourself, and that alone does a lot to convey, oh my God, I am that iconic silhouette. That's the first thing we see in Raiders of the Lost Ark is Indy's silhouette putting on the fedora and all that stuff. So it's if they think about it, they could still get most of the way there. Yeah. But I think there's no denying that the marketing would have been easier if this was a third person game.
Yeah, I think also I hope they do that thing. I can't remember what game it is. It's first person game, but whenever you emote, it pulls out to third person so you can see it.
Right.
They should have shit tons of Indiana Jones emotes in there.
just dropping the gun or whatever. Yeah. Okay. Then overall, developer direct, pretty good. I was entertained. I thought they did a good job.
I think it was a very, very, very good show from kind of announcement to kind of execution. Mainly because announcement, they could not have been more clear about what this thing was going to be and what was going to be there. They were like, 4 fucking games. These are the games. There's going to be nothing else. Please don't lose your shit over it.
Exactly.
And that's exactly what it was. They had one surprise, which was like, okay, cool, that's fine. But no one went in there being like, finally, Silksong is happening. And it's like, all right, calm down, everyone. And then it was like a nice kind of tour around these studios. I think like we talked about this again on GameSpot After Dark. It was like it felt a bit sanitized in a lot of ways from a discussion point of view. It felt a bit like read from the script, and there was personality there for sure, but
right.
I would have loved a little more like human element to it, you know?
Yeah, it doesn't feel quite as personalized as
no.
Maybe. And Nintendo Direct is kind of pretty similar, but like the Indie World Showcase, like when the indie studios send in their videos and they kind of like just do what they want. There's none of that.
Yeah. And also, I think it's like, I think the tricky part of it is like it's a bunch of studios under the Microsoft umbrella now. We haven't seen them for a while, and people are like, and it's a very corporate look at it. Very like, we package this up in the to the most slick way possible, and here it is. And I think like now these days, people what they want is like the human side of it, where it's like you go to the Game Awards and you see people like genuinely emotional about showing games and that kind of stuff.
Absolutely.
That's not to say this is bad. I don't think so at all.
No.
I think that there's a way to create a good balance, because they had like Dave in the background where he walked in, everyone was like,
yeah,
what are you doing, Dave?
Hey,
like
that's Dave.
That
yeah.
felt good.
It was
like
cute.
That felt like it was fun. It was cute. Yeah, and they had like outtakes at the end, that kind of stuff. And that kind of stuff, like weaving it in a bit more, could be cool. But nevertheless, it was like tight. It was like to the point. It didn't waste any time whatsoever. Very well paced, good amount of gameplay, really good like level of insight. I mean, for the most part, most of the developers were saying interesting things. The kind of like the Ara part where it was like explaining the basics of a 4X game and saying things that were like, we've got this thing. And it's like, yeah, that's how it's it, man.
Yeah, it's. I think these are the kinds of things where it's like next time they'll probably try to rebalance it and be like, okay, we'll do a little bit more of this. Should we lose a little bit of that? And it's like it's never going to be exactly right because people have different expectations for these things. But it feels like they're at least like always considering how these things look when they're presented the way they are. And it's like that's kind of all I'm not really asking for is be mindful and think about it. You're taking up my time. Do your best to try to entertain me. That's all. Yeah. And that's all I'm asking for.
But in all other ways, I thought it was fantastic. Like, very well done. I would love to see more of this.
Me too.
Yeah.
I think Microsoft said they're going to be doing a lot more. They're going to have more places to show their games. I think that does mean more dev directs, but they'll be at more events as well. All right, you know what? We're going to take a quick break. When we get back, we got a lot more news. Spent a ton of time on Xbox, so we're going to get everything right after this. All right, we're back, and let's see here. Let's talk about this first. Square Enix wants to make fewer games. This is from John Walker at Kotaku. During an investor call in November 2023, which was made public this week and spotted by My Nintendo News, Square Enix CEO Takashi Kiryu acknowledged the company's failure to market much of its recent catalog and raised intentions to slim down the publisher's lineup, as in publishing fewer games. Square Enix has been in a funny place for a while now. The company's apparent obsession with Web3 bullshit like blockchains and NFTs has courted controversy as of late. And just as that noise started to phase, following former CEO and blockchain stan Yosuke Matsuda's replacement, the new CEO Takashi Kiryu decided to go all in with artificial intelligence in the most tone-deaf way imaginable. That news was rapidly followed up by the revelation that Splatoon clone Foam Stars has AI-generated art. But basically, they go on here to say they want to increase our development proficiency by strengthening our internal development capabilities so that we are able to achieve a greater diversity in our title portfolio. And at the same time, they say they want to make fewer games so they can focus more on making games better and more high quality.
What the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah, that's what Tam. What can you tell me what you think Square Enix's problems are and how do you have any ideas of how to solve them?
I genuinely don't know if they have a problem. I feel like Square Enix's kind of perception of itself is the problem. They are effectively a boutique RPG developer, but they are operating much high on a scale much bigger than anyone else. They make the biggest RPGs. They make
Right.
Final Fantasy, they make Kingdom Hearts, they make Dragon Quest. The problem that they have, I personally think, is they still see themselves as a multi-game publisher that operates, like a Take-Two or a 2K, whatever it may be, a Sony, where they have a bunch of different games and different genres and different studios. That's not what they're about anymore, in my mind. And they could not have made that more clear.
Yep.
And it's incredibly wild that they're saying this, given that they sold pretty much every valuable IP they had so that they could focus on RPGs and the franchises that really do the job for them, like Dragon Quest, like Final Fantasy, and then experiment with stuff that is close to that with things like Octopath and those kind of like 2D, 3D RPGs, still RPGs. This is a case where they're like, what if we started making other games and made a few of them? It's like, no, you did this and you gave away one of the most like beloved IPs, multiple of the most beloved IPs. You got rid of Tomb Raider. You left Legacy of Kain to rot in your dungeons for a really IP dungeons for a really long time. You could not see that Hitman was one of the coolest things that had been made in the last decade of video games. And then you got rid of it. You sold it to Embrace, probably the shittest company you could have sold it to.
And for cheap, yeah.
For dirt cheap. And now they're like, what if we tried to kind of win back some kind of positive will after just doing this blockchain bullshit and like NFT nonsense? Long and short of it is like Square Enix needs to realize that it makes RPGs. It makes RPGs from Japan. It can occasionally branch out and make, other types of games if it wants to. But like, there's no way you're going, let's diversify our portfolio, make less games and be okay and feel like you can compete. Just understand what you are now. You chose to be this. You got rid of the IPs that would have allowed you to do what you want to do now. You made a conscious decision. Sleep in the bed that you made.
Yeah, own it. And it's like they don't own it. If you look back to 2022. Yeah,
and also like not to just to put a point on it. Like they make the best. They make some of the best RPGs.
Yeah.
Be okay with that.
Right, but and then they kind of don't know what to do with them a lot of times. And they have a bunch of different games. Like 2022 was like Babylon's Fall, Triangle Strategy, Chocobo GP, Stranger of Paradise, Chrono Cross, the Radical Dreamers Edition, the various Taylife, Live Alive, or Live Alive. Let's see, the Diofield Chronicles, Valkyrie Elysium, Valkyrie Profile Lilith, Star Ocean, Divine Force, Harvestella, Tactics Ogre Reborn. This is all still 2022. Romancing Saga, Dragon Quest Treasures, and then they finished up with a Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII Reunion. It's like, go back to 2022. What was Square Enix marketing in that year? A handful of those. Final Fantasy, Stranger's Paradise, a little bit. Yeah. The rest kind of were left, for the most part, to dwindle. And I don't like, that's the problem. Like, a lot of these games are decent, and some of them are very good. And it kind of felt like Square Enix is like, they'll just find their way, I guess. They don't know how to make a lot of these games and then talk about them and market them at the same time. And it feels like, why is the answer make fewer? Listen, maybe the answer is make fewer, but why is it make fewer instead of we need to ramp up our marketing? Is it because you can't afford it? So, okay, if that's the case, definitely scale back.
Yeah. I think like the good point of comparison and the company doing it correctly and making like inroads into growing into new ideas again is Capcom. Like they realize what is our bread and butter, and they pared back in a lot of major ways, and they focused on Resident Evil. They went back and they were like, let's just remake these Resident Evil games and make them awesome. And that's exactly what they did. And they used the stability of very, very good Resident Evil remakes, maybe with the exception of Resident Evil 3, even though that's I guess it's an interesting game.
Yeah,
it's not the best one.
They had to do
like so they did that, and they were like, okay, we'll carry on making these Monster Hunter games, which are like knocking it out of the park every single time. And then on top of that, we'll start thinking about getting a bit weird. Like, they're like, okay, we made a good Devil May Cry game. Next step, they're doing the smart thing and putting some effort into Dragon's Dogma, a game that, not a not going to set the world on fire, or the original didn't set the world on fire, but a lot of buzz around it already.
Right, and it feels like they're like, okay, we have these marquee, top of the world game franchises, and now let's take what we've learned to accomplish that with all of these franchises, reach our hand back down the ladder, and pull one of these other franchises that could be up here on this tier up there. It feels like it's exactly what they're doing with Dragon's Dogma, and Square Enix feels like they don't even own a ladder. Because they don't know how to do that at all. It is just, can we get people to care about these offshoot Final Fantasies? Oh, no, they don't even care about that, really. Oh, no. Okay, great. Forspoken, Sony, you want to pay us to make Forspoken? That's what they're doing. It's bizarre.
Capcom is taking like random shots as well. Like Exoprimal is one of them. It's but it's like the messaging from Capcom isn't like, we need to reorient this entire company to what the fuck is that?
It's my monkey. What do you mean?
Okay, they're not trying to reorient the entire company to be like, we need to be about making more Exoprimal style stuff. They understand like, no, our bread is buttered with Monster Hunter, Resident Evil, Street Fighter, and we'll keep making those games. In the meantime, we'll like ensure that we're still pumping out Phoenix Wright games, Ace Attorney games. We'll take a shot every now and then on something weird like a Exoprimal, but the foundation will remain at what it is. Let's not try and do anything crazy with it.
And even Exoprimal felt like I think you're right. I think that's the right approach. I think Exoprimal even seemed like it had every advantage. It was in Game Pass. It had a lot of people talking about it more than was like talking about a lot of these Square Enix games that kind of just come and go.
Yeah. And you know what, Capcom, I respect it. I will never respect you until you give us God Hand. Return Gene to his rightful place in the pantheon of video game greats. Okay,
we're rooting for you, Tam. All right, Bandai Namco EU and America YouTube accounts have both been updated. They've updated their Elden Ring playlist specifically. Tam,
let's go. Elden Ring music.
I'm getting my hopes up for this, that this is the real thing. This has happened before in the past where they did this right before the second trailer at TGA.
I love the idea of doing an office style like cut to a intern at a YouTube on a YouTube playlist, be like, I added a song by accident. What do I do? And they're like, wait, what?
Playlist. This happens to me with my YouTube channel all the time, where like Mike will be like, "You added some random like workout video to our podcast playlist." I'm like, "I did? Shit, I think I was trying to watch later."
The guy in Namco, like From Software, Bandai, is like, "I added Prodigy's Firestarter to the Elden Ring fucking playlist." Now everyone thinks there's a Prodigy DLC coming for this game. What's going on?
It would be incredible to get fired to Firestarter.
Link to Firestarter.
I think this is probably it. I do think this is probably it. This is happening soon, right?
I mean, like, it's happened. Like, there was also that other leak on that website. What was it again? Like, they put up some special edition or some another controller, the Elden Ring themed controller that appeared.
Right? Yeah. The Elden Ring. Yes.
I need that shit badly. It looks like ass. I want it.
I'm glad how fucked up it looks. Absolutely. And that controller was like, hey, February or whatever. I can't remember the exact details. We talked about it on the show, but yeah, like that was like yet more circumstantial evidence, and that was like relatively strong evidence. Relatively speaking. More than just like, oh, this is when they do this kind of thing. It feels like, no, that could be pointing in this direction really hard. Now we have this, and it just everything feels like it's lining up for an early part of the year release for this DLC to line up with the release of the original game 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And I'm excited.
Oh my God.
Isn't that fucked up?
Years.
Yeah.
I think it's because I still play that game, and I like watch like our friends at RKG are doing like a very, very, very long Let's Play kind of series about it on Retry, and I watch that like every week. So Elden Ring is a constant presence in my life. But yeah, 2 years. I did not realize it's been 2 years. I'm very, very ready for another dose of Elden Ring, if I'm honest.
Let's just put a final stamp on it before we move on.
Indiana Jones and the Elden Ring, easy.
Oh, that's real good. Tam, do you believe? Is this it?
Oh, I always believe. You know that. That's right. If anyone's believing, it's me.
Yeah, I mean, what's the worst that happens? You get your heart broken? You could survive that. I mean,
like, I like worst case scenario. It's easier to believe in something that is eventually going to happen than something that you don't know if it's going to happen. It's going to come out eventually.
Yeah, sorry about Legacy of Kain.
Yeah, like that's the one thing I believe in, that it was probably not going to happen for a very long time. Anyone out there want to work with me on getting that made?
Palworld is currently Steam's best-selling game, and it passed 350,000 concurrent users on the platform. It's from Eddie McCoo at GameSpot. Palworld, the Pokemon with Guns game from developer Pocket Pair, is off to a hot start. The game released today, January 19th, and has already surpassed 350,000 concurrent users on Steam. It only trails the free-to-play games PUBG, Dota 2, and Counter-Strike 2 in terms of concurrent players. Palworld is available now for $27. That price is temporary and will go up to $30 after January 25th. What the fuck?
I just love the idea of like the Pokemon Company office where someone's just sitting there being like, if we gave him a gun, if we gave one of them a gun. Hey, and they're like, "What are you talking about?" They're like, "This entire game where they've all got guns. What if we gave one of them a gun?"
And it's like the videos are incredible. Just like 4 people running around, just unloading machine guns into these giant slow Pokemon. It's wild. We're gonna play this today. People, I have a question in chat. If you know, is it crossplay? If someone gets the Game Pass version, can they play with me if I have the Steam version? Let me know. I hope so. I would imagine so, but we'll see. I counterpicked this game, and people seem to like it. For Fantasy Critic,
That's good.
I counterpicked
That's good
it.
for you, yeah.
No, it's bad. If people like it, I counterpicked it. So if people like it, I'm going to be screwed because if it gets like an 80, I'm going to lose points, and Nikki will get those points. Nikki will get the points no matter what happens to me. We'll see. I'm worried. I'm not too excited about the fact that people love this game, except for we're going to play it today, and maybe I'll be excited then.
Yeah.
8% of game devs say they're making a game on Switch successor. This is a GDC survey from My Nintendo News.
What?
Yeah, I was like, a lot of people expecting Nintendo Switch successor to come out this year. Who's
typing that into a fucking survey?
I think the survey is like, the GDC survey is like really elaborate and has like a bunch of different options for all these different questions. It's like, what kind of game are you making, or what are you making stuff for? And I just like, this is from My Nintendo News, so they picked out the Nintendo aspect of it. But 8%, I don't know, seems low to me. I don't know. It just feels like
this seems like, you know what? Right now, I'm making a game on the Switch successor in my mind.
Yeah.
9%. Let's fucking go.
Yeah. That's all it took to move it to 9%.
That's all it took. That's it.
Oh man, no, so we had the NPD report yesterday, and just a quick correction on that. The NPD report, I mentioned that it doesn't have full tracking data. That's just for title sales. When it comes to like the overall market sales, all that data is whole, like is complete. Especially because they work with like directly with platforms on that stuff. They just can't include stuff like Larian game data on the title charts because they don't have a deal with Larian to include that sort of thing.
Again, like I think the weirdest part of this is it's only 8%. I think that's probably because if people are actually saying I'm working on this, there's a whole lot of people who have been like, you are never catching me potentially breaking an NDA from Nintendo. I think
that's a possibility too. And like the reason I brought up the NPD is because yesterday, like we were like Mappus Cattell in one of his quotes was saying, there's a lot riding on the Switch successor. Like the industry is kind of stagnating a little bit. It's not like collapsing, but it's not growing as fast as we thought it was going to grow. It grew 1%. We were expecting 3%. So now everyone's kind of like, okay, the Switch 2 needs to hit. And it's like, oh yeah, I bet a lot of developers are looking around being like, all right, once the Switch 2 hits, we're going to jump on board that and try to get some momentum going right away. And then we see, 8% are making Switch successor games for the Switch successor. It's like, yeah, I think you're probably right. Most developers are like, no, man, I'm trained. I know not to say shit about shit.
Yeah, I have heard tale of Nintendo jail, and I will not be putting myself anywhere near it.
Let's see. Let's start getting through these last few ones. A third of developers saw layoffs at their workplace last year. 56% worry it'll happen this year. This is from Chris Scullion at VGC. This is also part of that GDC State of the Games Industry survey. It can't be a good thing for the industry that more than half of game developers, Tam, are worried that they're going to lose their jobs. That is no place for the industry to be in. I think back to Iwata talking about like, hey, we need people to be joyous when they're making these games, and they just can't do that if they're worried that they're going to be losing their jobs. So I'm going to take a pay cut instead of laying people off, so that we can keep making good games.
The absolute goal.
Absolutely, just all-time move, just a hell of a guy. And then we get to, like, years later, Rip Iwata. We're looking at an industry that's just like anyone could lose their job at any second, and everyone's worried about it. I think that, we talk about, okay, yeah, the layoffs and the pandemic, these things causing delays in games. People just having low morale is also going to hurt games in the long run. This is something we got to get past.
I feel like we've talked about this a bunch of times before, but like the overreach of executives resulting in the everyday developer who just wants to make games and make art and impact the lives of others suffering for it is bad enough as it is. But like the result of this is far reaching in that it is creating, both actually and in terms of perception, the image that the video game industry is completely unreliable, unstable, and a bad decision to invest in, both from actual people who want to invest in games and that kind of stuff, and also people who want to invest themselves through educating themselves and joining the industry. It is awful. Like the amount of people who have probably looked at this industry and been like, I want to make video games, and then seen all this shit going down and being like, this would be the worst decision of my life. The talent we are probably not even aware of, the fact that we're losing is unbelievable. And the thing is, the people who are making the decisions at the top, the executives who are chasing the money and the trends and that kind of stuff, they're never going to think about this. They do not care about the future of the industry. The only thing they care about is right now, how do they make the money, satisfy the investors, chase those trends, and then give them enough runway to get out while they can and get out on top.
Yep.
It is. I do not trust the big corporations at all to think about the future of these industries. I'm hoping that the smaller studios that are popping up are where it's going to happen. Like, I want nothing but the most success for these new studios that are popping up, just so that it's proof that it's viable and you can join a smaller team and you can be successful and you can earn a good wage and have a good work-life balance, and also, engage in that creative game making that you desperately want to do, and you don't have to become like join the meat grinder machine of the corporate world just to have a chance at these dreams.
Yeah, you're right. The corporations have built this sort of mode around them where it's they don't think about it. The whole system works this way, where it's like layoffs are normal, and it's just a lever you pull, and because of that, they can dehumanize the act in a way, and just, these are human resources, and we need to reduce that because it's a cost and that's a risk, and it's all these terms that never really bring the humanity into it, and that it feels normal to us now, but I bring this up. I've brought it up all week, and I'm going to keep bringing it up. It's not normal. This is not how humanity worked. It's not how markets worked. It's not how industry worked for the vast majority of our history. This is a relatively new phenomenon of layoffs just being a tool you can use. But the system is here now, and it's hard to undo that. And these companies, it does benefit these corporations to be that way, because it enables them to take bigger risks. Because then who gets to pay for it? Well, you cut jobs, and then the people pay for it, and not the corporation itself.
I think that it's worth saying, and it's worth being aware of the fact that it is not normal, but there is an effort to normalize it. Like, there are discussions happening, and the way it's treated, the way it's done, it is designed to just become a low hum in the back of this industry that certain people want you to think is normal. And I have seen, much to my chagrin and disheartenment, random everyday people getting behind this kind of stuff. I know Twitter is not a good indicator, but I've seen it beyond there, where it's just like, well, maybe these developers deserved it. And that is the most terrifying part of it. When the everyday person who loves video games is like glazing up corporations that are just cutting people to hit milestones. And then you've got the gamers being like, I think they deserve this because the last update was terrible, or they did not give me this game. That is the scariest part of it. And the reason I say that is because, I feel like we're talking to our audience here, so I know that this is how they are, but like being able to empathize and understand the plight of these developers who spend their entire lives trying to make games the best as they can, and a lot of the key decisions are taken away from them, like showing them support and help and understanding that, you know, the industry as a whole is hurt by these layoffs is the only way that it stands a chance of bouncing back. If we just get behind this shitty kind of normalization that is happening, we are just fast tracking the demise of this industry, and you do not want that. That is how shit like AI takes over. That is how like artists are pushed out of the roles that, you know, they need to have to make sure games are interesting and not homogenized by fucking, you know, typing into computers and letting it do all the work for you. Like, you gotta remember the human element of game development, which somehow I can actively see being lost in front of me.
Yeah, corporations never made a video game. Never. Nintendo's never made a video game. It's the people that made the games. And God, we gotta just keep remembering that, because otherwise we do end up like letting the system is ever present. It's hard to notice. It feels like it's natural. It feels like it's always been there. But like, not like a chat's like, you know, I'm a kid of a steel worker. This isn't new. It's no, I mean, yeah, that's kind of right when it started. That's when it began, where like this a generation of corporations that just began laying people off in mass, starting around like the late 70s, early 80s. And then ever since, it's just been like these companies being like, oh, we got away with that. We can keep doing that. And we ceded that ground. And we you know, the strength of unions became pretty weak, and it was hard to fight against that. And it's like, we got to stand our ground somewhere. And at a certain point, standing our ground at that, the humanity, recognizing the humanity of the people responsible for these products, that we got to stop there. The line must be drawn there.
Yeah, agreed.
All right, let's see. We got to get to the poll question. We have this from yesterday. Have you played Plants vs. Zombies? 76% say yes. 24% say no. That new Plants vs. Zombies coming out, that's a pretty high number, a pretty big ratio. I suppose Plants vs. Zombies is one of those games where it's like, yeah, everyone just played that. And 76%,
yeah.
I guess everyone did just play that.
I mean,
that's
there
wild.
was a period of time early in the iPhone's kind of lifetime, relatively speaking, where it was the game to have on your iPhone. Remember, it was like, it had I think it was a summer or like a year where this is the game that everyone played, in the same way that Angry Birds and Cut the Rope had it. I think Plants vs. Zombies definitely had a period where it was like, this is everyone is playing this, and it was on Facebook, it was on iOS. So I am completely unsurprised that probably everyone on Earth that has a iPhone probably played it at one point.
Yeah, and as we mentioned with that Plants vs. Zombies 3 news, Plants vs. Zombies is one of the biggest brands in China. Huge, massively popular in that massively populated country.
It's also playable on the shitty device that you pay on Olive Garden.
Oh, that's right. Oh, shit. Yeah. I always get that. They're like $2.99 for games. I'm like, that's future Jeff's problem as I'm paying the bill later. 100% of the time I get that stuff. ADHD. What can I do about it? All right. A new poll question here in a second. In the meantime, Tam, what do you got going on? What should we tell people about Giant Bomb and GameSpot and all that good stuff?
You know what? We've got Palworld coming up in a bit. The season or the finale of the Cowboy Bebop kind of side story of Jeff's Bizarre Adventure is now available. It is the very, very end. So we watch it we did it in a different way. We record a bit, watch the episode together, and then record after again. And it's kind of like a immediate before and after reaction from everyone. So we will be returning to JoJo very soon. Beyond that, that's pretty much everything I can think of right now. We've got stuff cooking for next week, obviously, but we'll leave that for next week.
Yeah, some fun stuff happening. Dance fingers are going to heal, and we might do some Mario Kart racing, something along those lines. I got a bunch of ideas.
I'm trying to figure out a game to stream like regularly on the site. Originally it was going to be Death Stranding, but
that could be fun.
I don't know. I just wanted to have like a slot where I stream a game a lot. If there's anyone in the chat, let me know what you want. Recommendations.
Let's come up with a bunch, and next Dregs Day, maybe we can maybe we decide something. There's like something that's probably perfect. There's probably a perfect answer to this.
hit me up on Twitter as well. Just add to more H. Send me what you reckon.
All right, everybody. Let's see here. New poll question.
One thing I did do.
Oh,
I did buy a hitbox style leverless controller yesterday. I'm so excited.
I got the Kitsune out for reasons, and boy, I like that thing a lot. How are you enjoying yours?
I bought one from AliExpress.
Oh, really? Oh no, that's awesome. Is it like
so?
How did it hold up?
I haven't got it yet. So I saw someone that I follow was like, I got it from AliExpress for $80. And I was like, oh. And he was like playing it and he was like, this thing rules.
I bet it does.
And I did a bunch of reviews. I read a bunch of reviews and videos on it. And they were like, yeah, this is a budget version of these leverless controllers. And it is better than most of the like high end ones because it's easily remappable and all this kind of other business. I'm trying to remember what it was called.
Bogart just said the Sally box in chat. Is it the Sally box?
Sally box?
Yeah.
No, it is. What is it called? I've got a YouTube video here. It is by a company called.
There's a ton of them. Says Bogart. Yeah. Okay.
Haute HAUTE 42.
Okay.
That is the one that it's the company that makes them, and yeah, it is very good. The one that I got is called a. Let me grab it. What's it called?
I'm just lovingly holding my Kitsune with its RGB.
42 M16.
Okay.
HAUTE 42.
$80.
It's $80
That's awesome.
on AliExpress, which is pretty cool. Yeah, and it's got a Raspberry Pi in there.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you can do anything with a Raspberry Pi.
It is like super easy to customize as well. I feel like worst case scenario, it works for a couple months, and if it is like cheap shit and it breaks, at least by then I'll be like, I'm good, comfortable using these now, and I can switch fully because I still have my Victrix Pro FS, which I adore. But my hands are crippled now, so I gotta figure this out.
Yeah, be careful when you start using it because I did have some pain when I switched it. It took a second to like figure out what was comfortable and how to relax the hands in the right way. So go in there gingerly.
The one I got is actually pretty big, so it's got a lot of hand space to like get comfortable. There's a smaller version of it which apparently has like much better feeling buttons. Which I almost got, but like it doesn't have a lot of hand space. But so what I'm going to do is I've also bought some separate like buttons and stuff. And I'm just going to switch them over.
Very excited to hear about your exploits with this. Maybe when we get together and play some fighting games on this website here pretty soon.
I'm down.
That would be a lot of fun.
But yeah, people let me know what they want me to stream on a regular. Like,
hit us up on Twitter. Let Tam know on Twitter. And then if you want to bring your suggestion next Friday for Dregs Day in chat, we'll keep an eye open. All right. Are you going to play Palworld? Yes or no? That's the new poll question. We're going to talk about that on Monday. My answer is yes. I think this is. I guess I should have realized at some point there would be like one of these Pokemon games that would. This has a big advantage. It's going to be big in China, and I think that they're going to like really kind of give this thing a boost at the beginning here, and then it could take over the world. I could see that happening. We'll see. I don't know.
There's been a bunch of Pokemon style games, right? There was that one.
Oh, a ton. Yeah.
Back. Yeah. That like they do well for a little bit and then they just like vanish.
Yeah, and then most of them like don't ever really take.
Remember
Temtem, right? That one actually was like people were like, yeah, we'll see, and then never really did much. I think it was still one of the bigger ones though. This one, 350,000 concurrent players. None of them come close to that.
I've seen a picture of what looks like an Electabuzz with a minigun, so I have to at least give it a try.
Exactly. All right, everybody, we're gonna get out of here. Tam, thank you so much for hanging out with me today and talking about video games. I really appreciate it.
Look at my t-shirt.
Oh, there he is. He's got come here, son, and with the Vegeta going Super Saiyan.
And then on the back is a.
Let's see it.
Let me see it.
Is it can't see the booty.
There's a very small, sad-looking trunks on the back because it's from that episode where Vegeta's like, "Come here, son," and then he fucking absolutely smacks his son into.
That is Mondo Cool.
It is Mondo Cool.
And thank you everybody for watching. Yes, all right, now I do just have my hands resting on my Kitsune because it makes me feel happy. Until next time, have a good one. Take care of yourself and goodbye.